It was a calm December night in suburban Ontario, the kind of evening where houses sparkled with Christmas lights and families gathered together to celebrate. Inside the Homolka home, laughter filled the air as the night wound down in holiday cheer. But as everyone drifted off to sleep, something tragic was quietly taking shape downstairs. Before long, a frantic 911 call shattered the peace. A young girl was found unconscious, and her sister stood nearby, shaken and terrified. What began as a joyful family celebration soon became the beginning of one of Canada's most haunting crime stories. It was a tale of obsession, control, and betrayal, all hidden behind the facade of a picture-perfect couple. No one in that quiet neighborhood could have guessed the darkness that lingered so close to home. Let's get into today's case. Karla Homolka grew up in what seemed like a normal Canadian family. Her parents, Dorothy and Carl, built a modest, happy home with their daughters, Lori, the eldest, and Tammy, born in 1975. Karla's early years were ordinary and filled with family moments, schoolwork, and friends. As a student at Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School, she quickly stood out. Teachers saw her as bright and dependable, while classmates described her as confident, friendly, and always ready to lend a hand. She joined an exclusive all-girls group called the Diamond Club, which encouraged its members to be ambitious and charming, and, according to local whispers, to marry someone successful. Outside of school, Karla worked part-time at a neighborhood pet store, spending her afternoons caring for animals and chatting with regular customers. Then, in the fall of 1987, when Karla was 17, her life changed course. During a work trip, she met 23-year-old Paul Bernardo, a recent accounting graduate from Toronto. Paul appeared to have it all. He was smart, confident, and well-spoken. To most people, he seemed like someone destined for success. But behind that polished image was a complicated history. His childhood had been marked by family tension and a mother battling deep depression. Determined to escape that environment, Paul worked hard to present himself as the perfect young man, ambitious, disciplined, and charming. Yet, underneath, darker traits were beginning to take hold. Friends from his teenage years would later recall flashes of arrogance and controlling behavior. Though he remained polite and charismatic on the surface, there was something unsettling behind his calm demeanor that few truly noticed. When Paul and Karla finally met, their connection was instant. Karla was drawn to his confidence and intensity, while Paul saw in her someone who admired and accepted him completely. Their relationship grew fast, and before long, they became inseparable. Paul showered Karla with affection, expensive gifts, and romantic dinners. Within months, she was proudly showing off the ring he'd given her, convinced she'd found the love of her life. But while their relationship seemed perfect, the city of Scarborough was living in fear. A series of assaults against young women had been making headlines, and police were desperately searching for the man the media had dubbed the Scarborough Rapist. When someone who knew Paul reported him as a possible suspect, police brought him in for questioning and collected a DNA sample. Yet investigators quickly dismissed him as an unlikely match, a decision that would prove devastating in the years to come. Meanwhile, Paul's relationship with Karla deepened. He was often at the Homolka home, where her family welcomed him warmly. To them, he seemed polite, attentive, and completely devoted to their daughter. After 2 years of dating, Paul proposed, and Karla said yes with excitement. She had finished high school and was working as a veterinary assistant, dreaming of a happy future. But behind Paul's charming exterior, his personal life was unraveling. He had lost his job and kept it a secret, turning instead to illegal side work to make money. Worse, he had developed an unhealthy fascination with Karla's younger sister, Tammy, something that would soon take their story into deeply tragic territory. By late 1990, only months before their wedding, Karla lost her job after being accused of stealing medication from her workplace. That Christmas, Paul joined the Homolka family for the holidays, bringing along a video camera to capture the cheerful moments, the decorations, the laughter, the sisters smiling for the lens. But what began as a joyful evening ended in tragedy. In the early morning hours, Karla called emergency services in distress. Her younger sister was found unresponsive. In the basement, paramedics rushed to the scene and took Tammy to the hospital, but doctors were unable to revive her. She was just 15. Carla and Paul told police that Tammy had been drinking that night and had simply overdone it. Carla added that her sister sometimes took medication, trying to make the story sound believable. The coroner ruled the death accidental, caused by alcohol poisoning, and the case was closed a few months later. The family was heartbroken but accepted the explanation. No one, not even investigators, suspected there was more to the story. In the months that followed, Carla tried to move on. She took a new job at another clinic and gave up her plans to attend university. Despite having been accepted to two respected schools, life appeared to return to normal, at least on the surface. And in the summer of 1991, Carla and Paul finally tied the knot in a lavish ceremony. They arrived in a white horse-drawn carriage, the picture of a fairy tale romance. Guests cheered, champagne flowed, and everyone celebrated what seemed like the perfect love story. But while the newlyweds smiled for photos and danced the night away, a grim discovery was being made nearby. That same evening, the body of 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey was found in a wooded area not far from the venue. Leslie had disappeared just days before, leaving her family frantic. She was a bright, lively teenager, a little rebellious at times, but always in touch with her loved ones. When she suddenly stopped calling home, her family knew something was terribly wrong. On the night she vanished, she'd been at a friend's gathering and had missed her curfew. A small mistake that would change everything. When Leslie finally tried to make her way home that night, she found the doors locked. She walked to a nearby plaza, hoping to reach a friend by payphone who might let her stay the night. But no one could, and that was the last time anyone saw her alive. Several days later, police made a heartbreaking discovery. Leslie's remains were found hidden in concrete blocks that had been left in a nearby lake. Dental records and her braces confirmed her identity. The sheer cruelty of the crime shocked investigators. But there were no solid leads to follow. Nearly a year passed before another tragedy struck. In April 1992, 15-year-old Kristen French disappeared while walking home from school. Kristen was known as responsible, focused, and kind-hearted. She was a high-achieving student at a local Catholic high school, an award-winning figure skater, and someone who adored her family, especially her dog, whom she walked every day. So when she didn't come home on time, her mother instantly knew something was wrong. Police launched an immediate search, retracing Kristen's usual route home and interviewing witnesses. It became clear early on that she hadn't run away. She'd been taken against her will, in broad daylight, from a busy neighborhood, where no one had realized what was happening until it was too late. At the scene, investigators found a few scattered clues, a torn map, one of Kristen's shoes, and strands of hair. Witnesses recalled seeing a dark-colored car, which many thought was a Chevrolet Camaro. Acting quickly, police tracked every car of that model in the area. Eventually, they discovered the vehicle was actually a gold Nissan, a small but crucial breakthrough. 2 weeks later, on April 30th, 1992, the search ended in tragedy. Kristen's body was found in a wooded area only a short distance from where Leslie Mahaffey had been discovered the year before. Because the circumstances appeared different, investigators initially thought the two cases were unrelated. But quietly, the truth was beginning to surface. Between late 1992 and early 1993, two major developments changed everything. First, forensic experts began analyzing old DNA samples, including one that Paul Bernardo had provided years earlier when he was briefly considered a suspect in the Scarborough assault cases. Around that same time, Carla showed up at work with visible bruises on her face. Her coworkers grew concerned. The injuries were too severe to ignore. When Carla claimed she'd been in a car accident, few believed her and decided to contact her parents. The next day, her parents took her to the hospital, where doctors documented significant bruising and trauma. When questioned by police, Carla broke down. She admitted she was afraid of her husband and said that the abuse had been going on for months, growing worse over time. Paul was soon brought in by officers and cooperated with their questions, so he was released shortly after. But by then, Carla had moved out of their home and started sharing more details with detectives from the sexual assault unit, information that would soon reveal the horrifying truth behind both murders. Carla's statements painted the picture of a life filled with fear and control, a relationship that had spiraled far beyond her. ability to escape. As police intensified their investigation, connecting Paul to both the Scarborough assaults and the murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, Carla hired a lawyer. Her attorney arranged a deal. In exchange for her full cooperation and testimony against Paul, Carla would receive a reduced sentence. Presenting herself as a victim of domestic abuse, she began telling investigators everything she knew. She claimed that Paul had been responsible for the violence that had haunted Southern Ontario for years. Before long, Paul Bernardo was arrested once again, this time for good. Not long after, forensic tests confirmed what detectives had begun to suspect. Paul's DNA matched the evidence collected from the Scarborough crime scenes. Investigators also verified that his gold Nissan matched the description of the vehicle seen near Kristen French's abduction. When Carla appeared on television shortly after Paul's arrest, she appeared calm but shaken. Through tears, she expressed sympathy for the victims and their families, insisting she had never known the full truth about her husband's actions. But behind the scenes, investigators were uncovering evidence that told a far more complex story. During a search of the couple's home, police found a collection of disturbing items, notebooks, recordings, and receipts linking Paul directly to the crimes. Among them was proof connecting him to the concrete used in Leslie Mahaffey's disposal. Then, detectives made a discovery that changed everything. A set of videotapes hidden inside the house. These recordings revealed that Carla had not simply been a bystander, as she had claimed, but had taken part in the crimes alongside Paul. With this undeniable evidence, her legal team quickly renegotiated her plea deal. Carla ultimately agreed to a 12-year sentence for her role in the 3 known cases, sentences to be served at the same time, and was placed in a secure psychiatric facility instead of a standard prison. In return, she promised full cooperation and detailed testimony. During her psychological Montreal, accompanying students on a class trip and participating in school activities with her dog. Although she was never left alone with children, the news caused public outrage. The school quickly changed its policies to ensure that anyone with a criminal record would no longer be allowed to volunteer. The incident reignited a nationwide discussion. Can someone with a past as dark as Carla Homolka's ever truly be reintegrated into society? And how far should forgiveness and rehabilitation extend when the crimes are unforgettable?